Picture an older American rider sitting on a Harley-Davidson road glide worth somewhere north of $30,000 at a red light in Sturgis, South Dakota. Chrome everywhere, leather vest covered in patches, no helmet. The exhaust is so loud it sets off car alarms 2 blocks away. Now picture Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam at the same moment. A family of 4, mom, dad, 2 kids, weaving through rush hour traffic on a Honda Wave commuter bike costing somewhere around $800 to $1,500 depending on the model, helmets on. They are riding to work, to school, to the grocery store. The motorcycle is just how the family gets around. Same machine, 2 completely different planets. The rest of the world looks at that American guy in Sturgis and genuinely cannot figure out what is going on. So why did the United States build one of the most expensive, most dangerous, most mythologized, and most rapidly aging motorcycle cultures in the developed world? That story starts with a lie, a photograph, and a movie star named Marlon Brando. Hollister, California, July 4th, 1947. About 4,000 motorcyclists rolled into this small farming town for a rally sanctioned by the American Motorcyclist Association. There was beer, there was rowdiness. Roughly 50 people got arrested for being drunk and disorderly. By small-town rally standards, it was a messy weekend. Nothing more. Then Life magazine showed up. A now famous photograph, widely believed to have been staged, or at least carefully arranged, showed a heavy-set man slumped on a motorcycle, surrounded by beer bottles. The image ran nationally, and America panicked. Suddenly, motorcyclists were not weekend hobbyists. They were invaders, outlaws, a menace. 6 years later, a young Marlon Brando starred in The Wild One, a Hollywood film loosely inspired by the Hollister rally. In the movie, a girl asks Brando's character what he is rebelling against. His answer became the founding scripture of American biker mythology. What do you got? That single line from a Hollywood movie set rewired how America thought about motorcycles for the next 75 years. The American Motorcyclist Association reportedly responded that 99% of riders were law-abiding citizens, leaving 1% as the outlaws. That 1% label became a badge of honor for outlaw motorcycle clubs across the country. You can still buy 1%er patches on the internet today. There is just one problem. The AMA says it never actually made that statement. Tom Lindsay, the AMA's own public information director, has publicly called the quote apocryphal. Nobody can find a record of anyone at the AMA ever saying those words. A big chunk of American outlaw biker mythology rests on a photograph that was probably staged and a quote that probably never existed. But the mythology was already running, and it was not going to stop. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club formed in Fontana, California in 1948. The Outlaws and Pagans followed in 1959. The Banditos came in 1966. Together, these 4 clubs became what US, Canadian, and European law enforcement now classifies as the Big 4 outlaw motorcycle gangs. The Hells Angels alone grew to roughly 6,000 members spread across nearly 600 chapters in 66 countries, according to law enforcement reporting compiled by researchers. Then Hollywood poured gasoline on the fire. Easy Rider hit theaters in 1969 and turned the open-road Harley rider into a countercultural icon. Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, riding choppers across the American Southwest, became the most enduring image of motorcycle freedom ever put on film. It was not about the motorcycle, it was about rejecting mainstream America. And that rejection, wrapped in leather and chrome, became the template for every biker movie and TV show that followed. More Hells Angels films came through the 70s and the 80s. Then in 2008, Sons of Anarchy premiered on FX. It ran for 7 seasons and turned outlaw motorcycle club life into binge-worthy prestige television, watched by millions of people who had never sat on a motorcycle. The show glamorized the brotherhood, the code, the territory wars, and the violence. And it sold a massive amount of Harley-Davidson merchandise along the way. No other country on earth produced anything like this kind of sustained cultural mythology around motorcycles. Japan had its Bosozoku street racing gangs, which peaked at over 42,000 members in 1982. But Japan's government crushed them. A series of road traffic law amendments in 2002 and 2004 expanded police powers to prosecute illegal group riding and reckless driving, with penalties of up to 2 years in prison. By 2015, the Bosozoku were down to about 6,000 members, mostly preserved through anime like Tokyo Revengers and nostalgic fashion reproductions of their old uniforms. American outlaw motorcycle culture never got that crackdown. It just became a lifestyle brand you could buy at a Harley dealership. And this is where the numbers start to tell a story the mythology never prepared you for. Because while the outlaw image grew, the people actually riding motorcycles in America got old. Really old. In 1985, the median age of an American motorcyclist was 27 years old, according to Motorcycle Industry Council survey data. By 1990, it climbed to 32. By 2009, it reached 40. And by the time the Motorcycle Industry Council ran its most recent comprehensive owner survey, that median had pushed to around 50. Only about 6% of current U.S. motorcyclists are between 18 and 24, and just 2% are under 18. The biggest motorcycle market in the Western world has become, demographically speaking, a retirement hobby, and the industry knows it. Reports from both RiderShare and CSM International have flagged the aging crisis as the single biggest structural threat to American motorcycling. Young Americans are not buying motorcycles. They are buying electric scooters or using rideshare apps, or simply not getting their motorcycle endorsement at all. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration fatality data tells the same story from a darker angle. In 1975, riders under 30 made up 80% of all motorcycle fatalities. By 2019, that group had shrunk to 28%, while riders over 50 now accounted for 37% of deaths. The riders are aging, and the consequences are getting worse. Now compare that to Southeast Asia, where the average motorcycle rider is 20 to 30 years younger because bikes are not weekend toys. They are how entire economies move. According to data from the Pew Research Center cited by World Atlas, about 87% of Thai households own at least one motorcycle. Vietnam has over 77 million registered motorcycles for roughly 100 million people, according to the National Traffic Safety Committee. Indonesia has over 106 million. These are not $40,000 Harleys. These are small, efficient Honda and Yamaha scooters and underbones that cost a few $100s and get ridden every single day, rain or shine. The Honda Activa, the Honda Wave, and the Hero Splendor are the actual best-selling motorcycles on Earth, and chances are you have never heard of any of them. Hero Motocorp sold about 3.3 million Splendor commuter bikes in India in just the first 11 months of 2024 alone, according to Team BHP citing industry registration data. Think about that for a second. One model of Indian commuter motorcycle outsold Harley-Davidson's entire global lineup by more than 20 to 1. India is actually the largest motorcycle market on the planet, and it is not even close. In the fiscal year ending March 2025, Royal Enfield crossed a historic milestone, selling over 1 million motorcycles according to the company's official press release. That included about 902,000 sold domestically in India and 107,000 exports. Royal Enfield builds retro-styled bikes in the 350 to 650 cubic centimeters range, things like the classic 350, the Hunter, and the Himalayan adventure bike, and they now control roughly 94% of India's 250 to 350 cubic centimeters motorcycle segment. An entry-level Harley in India can cost more than many Indian families' homes. A Royal Enfield Classic 350 costs about $2,000. Even more striking is how little American riders actually use their bikes. A study funded by NHTSA across Hawaii, North Carolina, and Virginia found the average American motorcycle logs roughly 2,000 miles per year. The Bureau of Transportation Statistics puts the broader estimate at 2,000 to 3,000 miles. And a VOOM insurance survey covered by RevZilla found that nearly half of American riders, 49.5%, log fewer than 1,000 miles per year. Some surveys even suggest a surprising minority of owners rarely or never ride at all. The average American car does about 12,000 miles a year. So Americans own motorcycles they barely ride, parked in garages next to cars they drive every day. In Vietnam, that motorcycle is how you pick up your kids from school. If you are learning things you did not know about motorcycle culture worldwide, subscribe. We cover deep dives like this every week. Now let's get into the two things that make international riders question American sanity more than anything else. The first is the loud pipes save lives debate. Visit any European or Australian motorcycle forum and bring up this phrase. You will get laughed at before the thread hits 10 replies. The argument, beloved among American cruiser riders, claims that extremely loud exhaust pipes make motorcycles more audible to car drivers and therefore prevent accidents. The physics of this falls apart almost immediately. The landmark Hurt Report from 1981, still the most comprehensive U.S. motorcycle crash study ever conducted, found that 65% of multi-vehicle motorcycle accidents involved a car driver turning into an oncoming motorcycle. The threat is ahead of the rider. Loud pipes point behind the rider. You can see the problem. A 2021 study conducted by the Romanian Association for the Development of Motorcycling, together with the Polytechnic University of Bucharest, actually measured this with instruments inside cars. Researchers found that loud exhaust was often far less audible inside modern vehicles than riders assume, with acoustic windshield glass and normal in-car audio significantly masking the sound. Revzilla's writer Lemmy summarized the flaw clearly. Your exhaust points backward, and because you are traveling forward, you are literally leaving the sound behind you as you ride. The Federation of European Motorcyclists Associations, known as FEMA, has been even more direct. French motorcycle journalist Chloe Gaillard, writing for FEMA, explained that according to the rules of physics and acoustics, sound emissions propagate in the direction of their exit. The noise follows the bike. It does not precede it. She also warned that excessively loud exhausts threaten riders' rights to use roads in European cities, where noise-based bans are becoming more common. In other words, loud pipes may provide far less safety benefit than American riders believe, and they are actively endangering riders' legal access to the road. The second thing that baffles the rest of the world is the helmet situation. And honestly, this one is hard to explain to anyone who did not grow up in the United States. Only 17 states, plus Washington, D.C., require helmets for all motorcycle riders, according to the Governor's Highway Safety Association. 29 states require them only for younger riders, typically those under 18 or 21. And 3 states have no helmet law whatsoever: Illinois, Iowa, New Hampshire. You can legally ride a motorcycle at full highway speed with absolutely nothing on your head. Dutch adventure motorcyclist Noralie Schoenmaker, better known as Itchy Boots to her nearly 5 million YouTube subscribers, described the experience of riding through America on her channel. She said seeing helmetless riders at highway speeds was deeply unsettling, calling the whole practice insane. And this is someone who rides motorcycles through some of the most remote and dangerous terrain on the planet for a living. Data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration for 2022 showed that in states without universal helmet laws, 54% of motorcyclists killed were not wearing helmets. In states with universal laws, that number was just 11%. A 2025 study by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety researcher Eric Teo estimated that weakened helmet laws contributed to over 22,000 additional motorcyclist deaths between 1976 and 2022, representing roughly 11% of all rider fatalities in that period. And the overall numbers are grim. Data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration for 2023 recorded 6,335 motorcyclist deaths. That is the highest number since the federal government started keeping track in 1975. Per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, the fatality rate was 31.39 for motorcyclists versus 1.13 for car occupants. American motorcyclists are about 28 times more likely to die per mile traveled than someone in a car, and yet in 17 states you can ride without a helmet. In Europe, you cannot get a motorcycle license without passing a graduated skills test, wearing full protective gear, and demonstrating that you can handle the specific class of bike you want to ride. In many states in the United States, you can walk into a dealership, buy a 1,000-pound touring motorcycle with zero riding experience, and legally ride it home without a helmet. That contrast alone explains why the rest of the world stares at American motorcycle culture like it has lost its mind. Now here is where we zoom out and look at the money, because Harley-Davidson is the financial mirror of everything we have been talking about. Harley sold 151,200 motorcycles globally in all of 2024, according to the company's own annual filings. That is down from 178,500 just 2 years earlier, a 15% decline. The fourth quarter of 2024 was devastating. Motorcycle revenue dropped 60%, and unit shipments dropped 53% compared to the fourth quarter the year before. Full-year operating income fell 47% to $417 million. Chief Executive Officer Jochen Zeitz pointed to cyclical headwinds for discretionary products and the high interest rate environment. For perspective on how small Harley has become globally, Honda sold 19.4 million motorcycles in 2024, according to the company's corporate reporting. That means Honda sold roughly 128 motorcycles for every single Harley sold worldwide. To put it another way, Honda sells more motorcycles in a single week than Harley sells in an entire year. India's Royal Enfield crossed a historic milestone in its fiscal year, ending March 2025, selling 1,009,900 motorcycles, according to the company's official press release. Royal Enfield's export volume alone, about 107,000 bikes, equals roughly 2/3 of Harley's entire global sales. BMW Motorrad hit a record 210,408 units globally in 2024, led by the wildly popular R1300 GS adventure bike family, which generated over 68,000 sales by itself. Marcus Flash, BMW's head of motorcycles, described the company as leading the global premium motorcycle segment. A German adventure bike company now outsells the most iconic American motorcycle brand on the planet. If you told a Harley rider in 1985 that BMW motorcycles would be bigger than Harley-Davidson within 40 years, they would have laughed you off the road. The European motorcycle market remained surprisingly strong through 2024. According to ACEM, the European Industry Association, new motorcycle registrations across France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK reached over 1.1 million units in 2024, up more than 10%. Italy alone registered over 352,000 motorcycles. Germany registered nearly 249,000, up more than 16%. And the bikes people are buying in Europe are adventure tourers and naked sport bikes, not cruisers. The cruiser as a dominant motorcycle category is basically an American-only phenomenon. In Latin America, motorcycles are not a passion project. They are economic survival. Brazil's fleet reached 29 million motorcycles as of June 2025, according to Senatran data reported by Agência Brasil, with 2024 sales up almost 19%. Brazil's Institute for Applied Economic Research, IPEA, reports 322,000 active motoboy delivery riders and 222,000 motorcycle taxi drivers. That motoboy figure jumped 13-fold from just 25,000 in 2016, driven by the explosion of app-based food delivery in cities like Sao Paulo. Colombia is even more motorcycle dependent. According to ANDI, the National Business Association, motorcycles make up nearly 62% of Colombia's entire registered vehicle fleet. Over 833,000 new motorcycles were registered in 2024, making Colombia the world's 10th largest motorcycle market. Colombia has roughly 223 motorcycles per 1,000 people, compared to about 26 per 1,000 in America. That is approximately 8 times the per capita density. Mexico's fleet has ballooned to 8.9 million motorcycles, up from around 2 million just a decade ago, driven heavily by gig economy delivery riders in Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey. Then there is lane splitting, which makes every non-American rider scratch their head. Outside the US, riding between lanes of slow or stopped traffic is completely normal. In Southeast Asian cities like Bangkok and Jakarta, it is literally how traffic functions at all. Without lane splitting, those cities would grind to a halt. In Europe, it is legal or widely tolerated in most countries. France, Italy, the UK, and the Netherlands all allow or accept it. In America, California is the only state with explicitly legalized lane splitting statewide, codified in state law in 2016. 5 additional states now permit limited lane filtering at low speeds. Utah since 2019, Montana since 2021, Arizona since 2022, Colorado since April 2024, and Minnesota as of July 2025. In the other 44 states, you sit in traffic like a car, cooking in your gear, breathing exhaust fumes, waiting for someone to rear-ended you. A 2015 UC Berkeley study of nearly 6,000 California motorcycle collisions found that lane-splitting riders were rear-ended at about 2.6% versus 4.6% for those who did not split. That is roughly half the risk when done at speeds under 15 miles per hour, faster than surrounding traffic. Banning a practice that research suggests may actually improve rider safety in slow traffic makes no sense to anyone outside US borders. And the final chapter might be the most revealing of all. Harley-Davidson spun off a standalone electric brand called LiveWire in 2021, projecting 100,000 electric motorcycle sales per year by 2026. The idea was to capture younger riders who cared about the environment and wanted something modern. What actually happened was 660 sales in 2023 and 612 in 2024. Then came the first quarter of 2025. According to Harley's SEC filings as reported by Jalopnik, LiveWire sold exactly 33 motorcycles across the entire quarter, 33, in 90 days, with an operating loss of $20 million. That works out to roughly $606,000 in operating losses for every single bike sold that quarter, though that figure includes heavy research and development spending, fixed overhead, and the Stay CIC Kids Bike division, not just manufacturing costs. The entire calendar year 2024 operating loss for LiveWire was around $110 million. The American cruiser customer base rejected electric motorcycles almost completely, and the younger eco-conscious riders Harley was targeting had no interest in a brand associated with their grandparents. Meanwhile, Honda is building the world's largest electric motorcycle production facility in India, and Chinese manufacturer Yadea has become the fourth largest two-wheeler maker globally, almost entirely on the strength of electric vehicles. The future of electric motorcycles is happening, just not in Milwaukee. The Sturgis Motorcycle Rally still draws massive crowds. The South Dakota Department of Transportation counted over 537,000 vehicles entering Sturgis in 2025 for the 85th anniversary, up 14% from the previous year. This is a town of 7,100 permanent residents that temporarily becomes one of South Dakota's largest population centers for 10 days every August. The 75th anniversary in 2015 drew an estimated 739,000 people. No other country has anything comparable. The biggest European rallies like European Bike Week at Fackersee in Austria can draw up to 100,000 people, but nothing on the continent approaches the scale, duration, or cultural mythology of Sturgis. And there is one more layer to the American motorcycle puzzle worth mentioning: the gender gap. A 2018 survey by the Motorcycle Industry Council found that women make up about 19% of U.S. motorcycle owners. Among millennials, that number rises to 26%, which sounds like progress until you compare it to Southeast Asia, where female motorcycle ownership is essentially equal to male ownership. Why? Because when the bike is how you get groceries and drop off your kids, gender has nothing to do with it. When the bike is a leather vest tribal identity product marketed through 75 years of masculine outlaw mythology, the in-group skews male. The framing creates the gap. The median age for female riders in the US is about 39 compared to 48 for men. 60% of women take formal safety training courses compared with only 42% of men, according to Motorcycle Industry Council data. American women riders are younger and better trained. They just have far fewer of them. So is American motorcycle culture actually insane? That depends entirely on what you believe motorcycles are for. If a motorcycle is transportation, the American version is irrational. You are spending $30,000 or more on a vehicle you ride 2,000 miles a year, in a country where you can legally skip the helmet, while your exhaust annoys the entire neighborhood without improving your safety one bit. But maybe the rest of the world misses something. Sturgis is not a commute, it is a pilgrimage. The chrome, the patches, the deafening exhaust, the refusal to wear a helmet. All of it is part of a tribe that has been telling itself the same rebel story since Marlon Brando asked, "What do you got?" in 1953. The mythology is real to the people inside it, even if the photograph was likely arranged and the quote was never spoken. The problem is that the tribe is aging out. The flagship brand is shrinking. The mythology is hardening into nostalgia, and the next generation is simply not buying in. Whether American motorcycle culture survives as a living, breathing subculture or quietly becomes a museum exhibit probably depends on one thing: whether it can stop worshiping its own past long enough to imagine a future worth riding toward. If this video changed how you see motorcycle culture around the world, you are going to want to see what we covered next about the full financial collapse inside Harley-Davidson's boardroom. That story is on screen right now.